on the throne of Libya released one prisoner under the same compassionate rules that they are asking the Scottish to do?
Dr. Fetouri.
Yeah, sure, I will be pleased to answer. That's not our subject, first of all, but nevertheless, I will answer. Of course, there has been so many releases of prisoners in Libya on compassionate grounds, and even more on the,
can we have a name?
Religious occasions that happen every now and then. I will go back to the issue of the compensation. Why Libya agreed to pay the 2.7 billion, and I again reiterate my statement. Libya is a small country. The United Nations is controlled by the superpowers, and the embargo against the country has been going on for better part of a decade, and the economy was destroyed. People were dying in the roads trying to get medical treatment outside the country because they could not fly. They had to drive to Tunisia or Egypt or take a boat to Malta to travel. I did this myself many times. There was no other way. I mean, we proposed, Libya actually proposed the trial to take place in the third country, which is ended up in Camp Zayt.
Okay, I'm going to ask the questioner. I'm going to ask the questioner to come back here.
I just want to come back to the original question. My question was not about sanctions and this and that. My question was very simple. Has the Gaddafi regime, in it is 40 totalitarian years in Libya, released one political prisoner under the same reasons and grounds that it is asking the Scottish authorities to do? And I do not mean people released in boxes, because we've had 1,200 prisoners killed in one day.
You made your point, and Jim Swire wants to answer that one. And then I'll come to you.
I've said already, I'm not a politician. I don't claim to know anything about Libyan politics other than my talks with Colonel Gaddafi himself. But can we get back to the subject? Was it a deplorable thing to release this man? Look at it for a moment from the point of view of terrorism. Most terrorism, Lockerbie certainly, happens as acts of revenge. If this man had been kept in a Scottish prison cell until he died, he would have become to be seen as a martyr. If the decision that he was guilty in this case...
The questioner doesn't really agree with you on that one.
I know he doesn't, but if the verdict against this man is overturned, what will then be the future effect on potential terrorists if they see that this was a man who wasn't even guilty of this terrorist act?
Jim Swire, I'm going to take a comment from Guma El-Gamaty, who's been patient here on the right.
Thank you, Tim. Can I just remind everybody that the Libyan regime has asked for Abdel Basit al-Megrahi to be released on compassionate ground to die a natural death amongst his family back in Tripoli. Let me remind you that on the 29th of June, 1996, 1,200 Libyan political prisoners were massacred in one day in Abu Salim prison. They were never given the chance to die a natural death in the arms of their wives and mothers. Is this justice or is this hypocrisy from the Libyan regime?
Okay, you've made your point. Dr. Fetouri, you want to come back on that point? To that point,
just to correct something. The Libyan government has never asked for the release of Abdel Basit al-Megrahi. Legally, it cannot. He did it himself. He is the imprisoned person, and he has to do it himself.
Jim Swire, is that true?
If the other side would like just to please to correct facts.
Saif al-Islam. He said we negotiated in every instance about the release of Abdel Basit al-Megrahi.
Please just state the facts as they
are. Could I have a moment of silence, please?
Okay.
Because nobody will be able to hear anything. Dr. Fetouri, you said okay. Thank you. Mr. El-Gamaty, you have something to say. Please say.
You are contradicting your leader's son, who said very clearly and openly that in every meeting we had with the British over the last many years, we always brought the release of the Abdel Basit al-Megrahi on the table, and we said we need it as a bargaining chip.
Well, everybody does. No.
You said the Libyan regime never asked for his release. What contradiction is that?
Thank you.
Everybody in Libya does.
Thank you. We're not going to get anywhere if you shout, please. Thank you. I'm going to take a question from the gentleman in the front row.
Very quickly on that point, on the gentleman's
How
point.
quickly?
Very quick. The gentleman's point is absolutely pivotal. And don't forget, there are many people in Britain today, British citizens of Libyan origin. I had one come to see me in the House of Commons very recently, would desperately wants to go and see his 94-year-old grandmother in Tripoli. She's ill, but the Libyans will not allow him to go back because his father's a dissident.
Okay, thank you. Question from the gentleman there.
Good evening. I'm Egyptian. Abdel Basit was convicted of killing 270 people. A few years later, he's released. What message are we sending to potential terrorists?
Exactly.
What message are we sending? So I'm going to put a different scenario. Let's say Osama bin Laden has, I don't know, cancer. And he was actually convicted for something like that. Would he be released? Because of the compassion? What compassion are we talking about? The family, the people who are suffering every single day of the loss of a member of their family. What compassion are we talking about? The compassion that a person.
Okay, let's let Dr. Swire answer the question. You've put it a number of times.
Very good. Just a number of questions, but as I said at the beginning, I think, my position in this is as an individual. I'm not a politician, I'm not a lawyer, nothing clever at all. I'm the father of one of the victims. And I have become satisfied as a result of what I have heard and the result of what many other people have said to me since, that this man was not guilty as charged. I know Tim will say, oh, he was found guilty by court and all this kind of stuff, but that's where I am.
But that's no small matter, is it? It's not a parking offence, is it?
Where I would be if I believed he was guilty, I can't tell you because I don't believe that. As it is, if we had kept him in to die, we would have given a situation to potential terrorists in the future that we were unforgiving, and that by forcing him to die in prison, that had been the right thing to do. Whereas as it is, we give them the message, we can exercise mercy, and this man, we do not wish to stay in prison because we're not even sure.
Okay, I am going to take another question from the lady in the second row there.
Good evening. My question is directed to Dr. Swire. He said, if it was strongly proven to you that Mr. Maqahi was guilty, don't you think that he should return to Libya in a box in the same way you received your daughter Flora?
I perhaps should hesitate to say this in this company, but I am a Christian, and Jesus Christ is recognized by Islam as a prophet at the very least. And one of the things he taught was that we should try to extend love even to those who will be regarded as our enemies. And speaking at the personal level, I hope that even if I believed that Megrahi was guilty, which I do not now believe, I hope I would have the generosity to follow that advice and to allow him to go home to die with his dear wife and family. Because if I could just finish that, thank you for your report. If I could just finish that, I said earlier on, we're all heading in this desperate, delicate planet for disaster if we don't do something soon. And we have to learn how to treat each other as if we were all brothers. And that is the message that I'm so glad to be able to try and put across tonight. Let us get there.
Very quickly, Mr. El-Gamaty, very quickly.
Just like to say that just as compassion is important, there is a principle which is far more important, which is the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law. Otherwise, this world would descend into chaos. And that is the precedent which the British government sent the wrong signal that we could tamper and mess around with the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the point in the proceedings we're now going to vote on the motion that this House deplores the release of the Lockerbie bomber to Libya. Would you take your voting machines, please, and let me just explain to you how they work. If you want to vote for the motion, that is the side represented by the gentleman on my right, you press button 1, the yes button. If you want to vote against the motion, the side represented by the gentleman on my left, you press button 2, the no vote. And would you please press whichever button you want to do now? All right, there is the vote. And it's a narrow vote, and it's 53% for the motion, 47% against. The motion has been carried. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Thanks to our speakers for coming all this way. And to you all, thank you very much for your questions. The Doha debates will be back again next month. We look forward to seeing you then. Till then, from all of us on the team, have a safe journey home. Good night. Thank you very much. Good night.